How many of you guys like those 2D action platformer games? You know, kind of like Salt and Sanctuary. If those are your type of games, this is the review for you guys. I got a game. It's called Vigil The Longest Night. It's on the Nintendo Switch and Steam. Want to give a huge shout out to another indie for sending me a code for early access for review purposes and streaming purposes. But without any further ado, here's my review on Vigil The Longest Night. What's going on, you guys? Gaming Ad here, coming at you with another review. Today, like I said, we're going to be reviewing Vigil The Longest Night. First thing I really want to brush up on is the performance of this game. I played this on Steam with my rig. There was no real big issues, no big hiccups. I did have a couple of glitches to where if I would go to like maybe Twitter or something and come back, sometimes the icons above the actual store owners wouldn't show up and I'd have to reboot the game from a cold start. Now, I do think this is because I was, going into browsers, etc. I don't think this would have happened if I didn't do that, but I want you to be aware that if this happens to you, just reload the game, save, reload it, and everything will be fine. But besides that, the game ran flawless, no issues whatsoever. Now, when it comes to the story, there is a story here. It looks like a very well-told story, but the problem is I do feel like you have to be a lot into the dialogue and you have to go out and look for the story. Now, for the most part, these type of games, it doesn't, everything lies on the story. A lot of these type of games has to do with everything with the gameplay. Look at Bloodborne, look at Dark Souls, look at Demon Souls. A lot of those games have a solid story behind it, but it's all caught up in the lore and you have to go out and look for that. But I do think that this needs to change. I would like a little bit more storytelling in these type of games and not completely relying on gameplay. Now, the good thing about this game and what it really does well is it has a lot of side content that you guys can do. It has a lot of side equipment that you guys can partake in. There is a crazy amount of stuff that's hidden in this game, and if you really look through every nook and cranny, you'll find all this stuff. Some things you need certain items or you need certain abilities to get to. It's kind of like a Metrovania kind of thing to it. Now, I do want to say that I feel like they needed to improve on this a little bit, because as far as the equipment goes, you'll get your base equipment that you start the game with, and then you have to look for everything else. I don't really like the way that was. I feel like the further you get in the game, the more stuff should be unlocked in the store and would let you go to that store and purchase everything. But besides the base equipment and besides the golden equipment, you don't really have a whole lot of access to stuff in the store. But let's say you go through this whole game and you don't really focus on a whole lot of side content like I did. I focused on some, but I was mainly interested in the main story because I'm a huge boss rush guy and I want to fight the bosses. Don't worry, you could take that equipment that you have from the start of the game and you can upgrade it with the smith all the way to its max level, and it will be a very viable weapon for you to use for the rest of the game. Now, like I said, you actually have access to different variety of weapons. You have swords, you have daggers, etc. Now, there is a skill tree on here, a little bit RPG-ish, and every skill tree has a pretty in-depth thing that you can do to make that unique gameplay stand out from the rest. There's one thing that you guys know that Addict is a huge passionate gamer about, that is bosses. I love boss games. I love boss rush games. I love well-designed bosses. I like aesthetically looking bosses, and this game does a little bit of everything. This game does platforming bosses, this game does DPS bosses, and this game just does a lot of mechanical bosses as well. Now, there isn't a lot of bosses in this game, but there is a lot of really nice ones that you do that you're like, yo, I finally beat him. And it's one of those things where the moment that health hits 0, you are celebrating before you even notice that person has a second form. Now, let's talk a little bit about the actual graphics of this game, how this game looks. The art style that they chose was a very good art style. They have a lot of different themes going on with them. It kind of reminds me a lot of Bloodborne and the way that Bloodborne was designed around that kind of art style, that kind of goriness. This game has a lot of that, and I think that's good because a lot of the people in this type of genre, the fans of this genre, one of the biggest games that they like is Bloodborne. So it's really nice that they were able to take that type of art art style that I've only really seen in Bloodborne and make it their own. They have a lot of different unique things in here. I really love the hub world. The hub world's called Maytown, I believe. I probably butchered the beginning of that. All you have to do is walk around in that town for a little bit and you feel how much they bring this world to life. You feel the pain this town has been in. There's a giant plague going on in this game, and there's people taking advantage of the plague. There's people there that need you to do things for them. They need you to go save people. They need you to go slay people. They need you to go kill stuff and bring items back. They need you to go search for paintings, believe it or not. I enjoyed the world of this game more than probably I enjoyed anything. Now, this game took me about 13 to 15 hours to beat. Now, I loved it, but there are things that I feel like if there is a sequel, it can improve. Let's go over that. Probably the biggest issue I had with this game is the way that you acquire equipment. Now, I understand that they wanted things to be hidden. They wanted you to proceed and get side quests to get these equipment, to get these new weapons, but I feel like that wasn't the way to go, because what you do is, for people that miss it, they get frustrated because they don't have it. Now, during every loading screen, there is a certain part of the screen that shows you items in the game. So every time you load, it teases you on stuff that you missed. Now, most of the time I don't mind when they show items in a loading screen, because it's giving you a sensation on what you're working for, a sensation on what you want to find and what you want to achieve to get. You know, a lot of the times, and the way I would have appreciated this game to be, is they would have like a creation system where you can create these weapons if you have the certain material to make them. They could have made them rare if they wanted to, and then you have certain legendary weapons that's around the map for every type of weapon that you can have, that you have to do a certain mission in the world, that once you finish that mission, you'll have the best item in that weapon class. Now, like I said to you guys, I love boss rush games. I love fighting bosses in general, and this has a very good foundation around fighting bosses. But one of the things I did notice for the most part is you don't really get rewarded for beating the bosses. You don't even really get much XP. You don't even get much money. I did think that that needs to be changed. They might even be able to tweak that into the game right now. Is just give me some more money for it, man. Give me like $20,000 for beating a boss. You know, if that messes up the ecosystem of the game, that's fine. Maybe lower it down a little bit. But I did feel like beating the boss, unless it was to progress the story in general, you don't really get a whole lot for beating the bosses. I felt like maybe they need to have a weapon, a rare weapon for every boss, and, you know, make it to where it's a drop rate if you want. You know, that you're not even necessarily guaranteed that weapon, but you can continue to fight him over and over again after you've beat him. Maybe some way that you could travel back in time. I don't know. Maybe you just keep reloading the save and keep fighting him until you get that weapon drop, and then you save it after you have that weapon. But I do feel like you need to have some form of rewarding system for beating these bosses. And some of these bosses are difficult. Some of these bosses, it was head to head the whole time, and when I beat them, man, I didn't really get much for it. But that doesn't really take away from the bosses. It's just, you know, some critique that I felt like if they ever make a sequel, yo, just put some boss rewards at the end of this. Maybe have a material or rare material that you can upgrade your weapons, and I think we'd be golden when it comes to boss fight. Another thing, I didn't really notice too many hidden bosses in this game. They could have been there and I just missed them, but, you know, if there wasn't too many, you know, let's add some more. Maybe a DLC, add a couple hidden bosses. I know they have a really good relationship with the people who make Salt and Sanctuary. There's actually some, you know, Easter eggs in the game with that game. And so maybe try to talk to them and see if you can take it a little bit further than that. Maybe fight the main antagonist or the main protagonist from the Salt and Sanctuary as a hidden boss in a DLC. But I think that would be cool, but I don't know, you know, when it comes to stuff like that, licensing issues an issue. That's just, you know, some critique that I think would breathe a little bit of life into this game. I didn't notice that there was any type of, you know, new game plus in this. So if there isn't and I just missed it because I beat the game and then they pretty much just let you save over where you are now and you can see the ending again, I think that, you know, maybe put a new game plus in here, give it a little bit more replayability, let them go back and get some of that older equipment that they didn't get, and I think we'd be golden with a new game plus on top of this. Now look, I have spoke a little bit negatively about this game, but it's not negatively in huge forces. It's just some critiques I have. I love this game. It is definitely worth the money that they're asking. Go on there to Steam, pick this game up. Go on there to the Nintendo Switch, pick this game up. This game would be fantastic portable, and I feel like it's probably going to sell the best on the Nintendo Switch because it is a solid experience. It's a good price point, and I think it's worth the money that they're asking for. And the fact that you can go and you can play that on the bus, definitely gonna help it. But, you know, as far as Vigil The Longest Night, it's a solid story that, you know, maybe you could have explained it a little bit more, but that doesn't really take away from it. It's just I would have liked a little bit more explanation. maybe I should have did a little bit more side quests, and I would have figured out a little bit more in terms of the overall arching narrative of the game. You know, the gameplay is phenomenal. I have no issues with that whatsoever. I did feel like at times it could be a little slow, but that's besides the fact. And plus, the boss fights, like you guys know, I'm a huge boss fight fan. They're great. So right now it's worth your money. Doesn't matter where you play it on, the Nintendo Switch or Steam. And if you want to wait for maybe it to come to another platform, definitely wait if you want to. But I would say go out there and buy this game now. I'll put it in the description below. Until next time, this is Gaming Addict, and that was my review on Vigil The Longest Night for the Nintendo Switch and Steam. Peace.